What's going on, guys? It's Coach Bronson here, and I wanted to share this video, even though it's not my video. This video is an interview that I was on. Jessalyn Randle, who's an influencer in Okinawa, interviewed me for her channel, but it was such a good interview. We had such a good time talking about a bunch of different topics, lots of good questions from her followers and from her. So I think the information is important to share. I wanted to kind of let her, promote her channel a little bit as well. So I hope you enjoy this. I kind of let some of my filter, let some of my guard down and kind of really talk a little bit more openly about some of the things I really believe and how we should be doing this nutrition and fitness thing to really improve our quality of life and not get caught up on the minutia. So telling it like it is. This is a really fun talk. Hope you enjoy it. Hey, you can see me now. How you doing?
Good. How are you? It's nice to finally meet you.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for being my guest and chatting with me.
I appreciate it. No, I've been seeing what you're doing. I love your stuff, and I felt like I want to be part of the party.
Oh, awesome. Yay. I'm so excited. So to start us off, do you want to just tell us a little bit about your story, how you found keto and how it changed your life, things like that?
Yeah, so basically, so I'm 50 years old. I've been doing carnivore for a little over 4 years, and I got started with it primarily as like an experiment to see two things. One, if it would clear up any of the gut issues I was having, IBS, urgent bowels, things like that, which it absolutely did. And then also to see if there was any performance aspects of improving my ability to be physical and athletic. Even being, like I said, I was 45 when I started, and lots of injuries, lots of aches and pains. I could only work out maybe 3 days a week without feeling run over all the time. So all of the changes and benefits I got from that and getting stronger, being able to work out more, feeling better, everything just got better. All my injuries went away, things like that. So it was really an experiment. I figured I'd do it for 30 days, and here I am 4 years later still doing it, and I have no intention of going back.
Yeah, so you're carnivore, you're not keto?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Are you going to
Well,
change
so no, so here's the thing. So I'm glad that you asked that, because the distinction to me is more about the community that I'm trying to affect, and carnivore is a ketogenic diet. So I follow carnivore, but I still am a ketogenic athlete. I'm still a ketogenic person. My energy management, my health, my lifestyle is ketogenic, because really all that means is I've cut out carbs from my life.
Mm-hmm. And
So
do you mind answering this question really quick too?
yeah.
We're planning on trying this carnivore lifestyle. Suggestions for the best way to start.
Jump right in. No, everyone's a little bit different, and some people are jump right in. I was a jump right in kind of person. So, jump right into it was like, I did some research for like 3 days and then said, okay, I'm just going to start eating meat. And that's what I did. It was fun. And again, like I said, I just went in all in and haven't gone back. Some people, it kind of depends on how sad your diet is now. In standard American diet, we can, pun intended,
Yeah.
and how much of a transition you actually have to make. So I was whole foods, paleo, kind of Whole30 kind of diet already. So there wasn't a lot of processed food. There wasn't a lot of carbs. It was mostly green veggies and things like that I cut out. I didn't have a huge transition to make. If someone's coming from a lot of processed food, a lot of seed oils, a lot of processed carbs and things like that, they may need to start with low-hanging fruit and slowly move their way into it. So let's say you're on the far spectrum of really unhealthy diet. I would say the first thing to do is cut out all seed oils and go with animal-based fats, number one. That's the first thing. Cut that out. Go with butter and lard and tallow, that kind of stuff for all your cooking. And then secondly, or at the same time, just generally increase the amount of animal meat that you eat. So just focus on cutting out seed oils, replace all your fats with animal fats, try to eat more animal meat. From there, after you've been doing that for a while, then we can start talking about
removing the breads, removing the pastas, removing that kind of stuff, removing the processed carbs and all those things, and trying to stick to, if you're still going to do plant-based foods at this point, stick to whole foods, natural foods. If it came from the ground, you can eat it. If it came from a box, it doesn't go in your mouth. After you do, you're just making these small changes. You're not even 100% carnivore yet. Just making those changes, you're going to start seeing drastic improvements in your health, how you feel, your energy, any chronic illnesses or just, issues that you have. You're going to start seeing some major changes. From there, if you want to keep going and you want to go all the way in on just eating animal meat, then start taking away the vegetables and focusing on just eating the meat that you find enjoyable and something that is, fits your lifestyle. It's easy to prepare. It doesn't take a lot of work. That's one of the things that I like to do is, for me, I can cook. I used to work in a restaurant. I've been there, done that whole thing. I understand the process. I can make some really good stuff. I'm lazy. I don't like to do it. So carnivore is great for me because I can throw something on the stove and 15 minutes later, I've got this giant meal of food I can eat. So finding meats that you like, finding different ways to cook it so that you enjoy it and you can keep doing it without getting bored, which don't ever let anyone tell you that carnivore is boring, because it's not. When you're eating what your body wants, you will never get tired of eating it. Yeah. So that's kind of how I would start.
Yeah. And then someone did mention in the comments, what about the Randle cycle though?
What about it? As far as during the transition period? Yeah.
It's just
cutting. Yeah. So eating the fat and carbs at the same time and all that kind of stuff. Look, it's about, when we're talking about someone coming from a really bad place nutritionally, any change, that's why I said low-hanging fruit. Any change for the better is going to benefit. The Randle cycle is already in effect with what they're doing now, but so is seed oils, so is processed crap and chemicals, so is, there's a bunch of other stuff going on at the same time. So the priority to me is what is going to cause the most chronic inflammation and health risk. Let's get rid of that first. And that's seed oils, in my opinion. So if no matter what you're eating, Randle cycle included, I would say cut out seed oils first and then work your way into the carbs, where you're mostly getting your fuel from animal-based fats, and then you don't have to worry about it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so they responded, I hear you, but would you not suggest perhaps they keep the same animal portions and reduce the CHO down gradually?
That's kind of basically what I was saying, yes. Okay. Right. So the step number one, I would recommend seed oils, replace all your fats with animal fats, increase your protein and your animal-based meats. Doing that in and of itself, you're going to automatically eat less carbs. If you're adding your fats and you're changing your fats over to animal-based fats and you're increasing the amount of meat that you eat, you're automatically, just by default, you're going to reduce the amount of carbohydrates that you eat. So that's step number one. Step number two is to specifically try to reduce the carbs that you eat, and then go from there. Yeah. So yes.
I totally understand that too, because my dad did that, and just by adding a little more in, he reversed his diabetes. He didn't even go full carnivore.
Yep, absolutely. And that's where we talk about prioritizing protein. Not only is prioritizing it important in the amount, but literally when you sit down at your plate, eat it first. Fill your plate up with as much protein as you think you can eat. If you want to have carbs in your plate, that's great. Realize that if you fill up on protein, you don't have to eat the carbs. And if you don't, no big deal. You got your protein, you got your fat, and you're good to go.
Yeah, and so what ratio protein to fat do you follow?
None. This is actually, I'm so glad somebody asked this, because I am hot on this right now. We need to break away. I am 100% bought into the idea that we need to stop using ratios and stop using percentages. It doesn't work. The amount of fat that you eat has absolutely nothing to do with the amount of protein that you eat. Your body doesn't know that you're connecting the two. What we're doing is we're taking outside figures and percentages, which are based on calories, by the way. So that's a whole nother discussion. And we're saying we want to fit our macros into this thing. That's like going to, I love this analogy. That's like going to the mechanic and bringing your car to the mechanic and saying, hey, when you give me this tune-up, can you give me 80% gas and 20% oil? He's going to look at you like you're crazy. No, what are you talking about? I don't know what that means. And is 80% of whatever random amount that you're telling me, is that more than the car needs or less than the car needs? Is the 20% oil more than the car needs or less than the car needs? The mechanic's going to look at you and say, no, your car needs 6 quarts of oil and 17 gallons of gas. That's what your car needs. And we need to start doing that. The ratio is absolutely immaterial. There's no connection. Your body doesn't work off the connection between the two. So you need to figure out how much protein is good for you. You can find a number and start with that number. And then if you feel like your energy is better, you're getting stronger, you're building lean mass, you're able to do more activities and things, and you're sleeping better and all this stuff is happening, then you know you're getting enough protein. You can stay there. If you want to eat more, here's the thing. Protein is a minimum. Find what works for you. If you go over it, you're golden. You can always have more protein. You can always have more protein. And when it comes to the fuel, you want to find the amount of fuel that your body needs. And how we do that is we try little increments up or little increments down. And we say, look, how much fat do I need to function, to have energy, to support my hormone function and all these things? Because here's what's going to happen. When your body has more than it needs to function, it's going to store it. So if I'm tracking how much fat I'm taking in and I get to X number, let's say I get to 170 grams, I can eat 170 grams of fat without gaining body fat, then I know that's a good, healthy number for me. If I eat 175 or 180 and I start gaining body fat, then we know that's too much. I've hit my threshold for energy intake. I don't need any more. That has nothing to do with how much protein I'm eating. The idea that if we are high fat, we have to be low protein, or that we are low fat, we have to be high protein, is completely contradictory to the way our body works. You're always going to be low on one and high on the other, or vice versa, and low on both or possibly high on both. Because you're basing it on a calorie intake that, if calories don't matter, why are we doing percentages based on total calories? It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. And so you mentioned earlier that the carnivore diet is a ketogenic diet.
Yep.
But how do you, if you're not tracking and things like that, how do you know if you're staying in ketosis? Because, correct me if I'm wrong, but too much protein can kick you out of ketosis, right?
Which is what it's for. It is there to help you stay out of ketosis. So ketosis is not the goal of the ketogenic diet. And this is also another misunderstanding. Ketosis, by definition, is a high level of ketones in your blood. That's all it means. It doesn't mean anything else. It doesn't mean that you're getting that from your body fat, or you're getting it from the food that you're eating or the exogenous ketones that you're drinking. I can eat a Coke or eat a pint of ice cream and then take in a bunch of a BHB drink, and pee on a strip, and it'll show that I'm in ketosis. Because that's what ketosis means. It just means you have excess ketones in your blood. Just like you have, if your blood sugar is high, you have high blood sugar. Ketosis is just a way of saying you have high ketones. What you're looking for in the ketogenic diet, the purpose of the ketogenic diet, is to make our bodies efficient at breaking down the fat in our body and the fat that we eat into ketones. That's going to mean sometimes we have excess, sometimes we don't. Over time, if you're measuring your ketones, you want your ketones to go down. You don't want to be in ketosis. There's some stuff that I'll be coming out with a video, and some other people have already come out with some stuff about the potential issues that are surrounding long-term ketosis. And the idea that we want to stay in ketosis all the time is actually, if you think about it, let's put it this way. If excess sugar in the blood, if excess glucose in the blood is bad long-term, because it's just fuel, it's just excess fuel that our body can't do anything with. How is excess ketones in the blood long-term good? It's excess fuel. Our body can't do anything with it.
Yeah.
To me, it's not a good situation either way. We want to go in ketosis and out of it. As long as our body is getting efficient at utilizing fat for fuel, that's the goal. If it's good at utilizing fat for fuel, our ketones eventually will start to go down because they're being used, and that's what we want. So ketosis is not the goal.
Interesting. Okay. And someone asked, I retain a lot of water. Do you know another diet that can help?
I would say look at your electrolytes. That would be the first thing. Are you salting your food to taste? Are you drinking a lot of water without electrolytes in it? I like to recommend that people don't drink just water by itself, that they always have some kind of electrolyte in their water. Many people are electrolyte low, and then going low carb, going no carb, low carb. Our body gets rid of sodium more. We pee more, all that kind of stuff happens. So staying hydrated is really important. And swelling can be a symptom of it's more about a balance of sodium and water and electrolytes than it is low or high. So if it's in balance either way, you could get swelling.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so what do you think is, or from your experience, what is the biggest mistake that people make when they're trying to like get healthier fitness wise, with like in relation to their diet?
On the fitness side of things, I think really it's about a mindset. I think a lot of people just think that it's going to be too hard and don't try. I think the biggest mistake is thinking that it has to be more complicated than it is. So they overthink themselves out of trying something. And it's really about looking at what is the lifestyle that you want to live? Why do I want to get in shape? Why am I doing this diet? What am I doing this whole thing for? It's about quality of life. So as much as everybody starts this for saying that they want to lose weight, they want to get skinny, they want to do all these things about the scale, it's really not about the scale. Something about their lives is limiting them. There's something that they're not able to do, or they're unhappy with, or they have discomfort, and they think losing the weight is going to fix that problem. What they really need to realize is that the weight is a symptom of something deeper, and that has to do with what their body can do and how their body is functioning. So fitness is all about, what do you want to do with your life? How do you want to live your life? I have a lot of people who their fitness restrictions are simple things like being able to walk up the stairs. And that's the challenge that can immediately affect the quality of their life if they could just walk up the stairs more times throughout the day. So my goal for them, and when I work with them, is your fitness program for the first week, the first 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever it is get to a point where you can walk up and down the stairs 10 times in a day and it feels easy. Because that's number one, that's the limiting thing in your life right now. So we want to overcome that. Number two, just getting you moving to the point where you can walk up the stairs and make it easy is going to improve your ability to move, your muscle, your energy management, all sorts of things that affect other areas of total quality of life. So the 1% rule, which basically means just do 1% more than you're doing now. It doesn't have to be complicated. You can do something at home. You can join a gym if you want to. Whatever you do, find something that is difficult now in your life physically, and then make it easy. That's the easiest way to get started. As you progress and go, you'll get into where you're like, okay, all this stuff that used to be hard is easy now. What's next? And then you can start looking at, okay, maybe I get some dumbbells or kettlebells or bands, or join a gym, or get a coach, or do whatever. But you got to start with what can affect me as quickly as possible right now. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't have to be hard. It can be simple.
Yeah, I love that. So what's next for you then? Like, what are your goals?
For me?
Yeah.
Wow, nobody's ever asked me that. Thank you. I'm currently I'm doing an experiment, which isn't really an experiment. It's more just documenting the process of my protocol and how I go through building lean mass while maintaining skeletal body fat percentage. So I'm about 5 months in. I'm in my 6th month, actually, where I'm just looking at managing my macros, playing around with different exercise methodologies, and trying to see how I can optimize building muscle and not gaining fat. So in the past 5 months, I just did an update video on my YouTube a week or so ago. In the past 5 months, I've put on 5 pounds of muscle. I've done about 1 pound of muscle a month that I've gained, and my body fat has stayed exactly the same. So I have about 20 pounds of fat on me right now, and I've maintained 20 pounds of fat for 5 months. But I've gained 5 pounds of muscle at the same time. And I'm doing that carnivore. So no carbs, doing 5 workouts, either Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or strength training every week. and having a blast doing it. I'm 50 years old. I'm gaining muscle like crazy, and I feel fantastic. So that's one of the things I'm working on right now from a nutrition and fitness perspective, is trying to just document this process, because a lot of people don't think, they think you need carbs to exercise. They think you need carbs to build muscle, and they don't realize that it's actually easier without it. A lot easier without it.
Yeah. So you said you're managing your macros. So how are you tracking that then if you aren't doing any sort of like ratio protocol?
Yeah, so I don't do a ratio. I just test and see what I need for each. And just like I was saying, so I'm currently doing about 200 grams of protein. That is my goal, because I'm trying to maximize as much muscle potential as I can. And I'm doing about 135 to 150 grams of fat a day to try to manage I know that if I get to 170, 175 grams of fat, then I start putting on fat. So I try to stay, 10, 15, maybe 20 grams under that. So 135 to 150. 135 is what I put in Chronometer, but I'm usually around 150.
Okay. And then I did see someone ask earlier, what causes nausea 5 hours after eating? Me personally, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but if I eat too much fat, I get nauseous at night.
Same here. Yeah, focusing on fat.
Okay.
I find that most people benefit from focusing on the protein and getting the fat that comes with it. But if you're adding fat to everything, you're probably overdoing fat.
Okay. Interesting. Because that is what I'm doing right now. So I'll have to take that into consideration. And my goal right now is to build muscle and not build body fat. So I'm having this talk. So someone said, I'm 47 years old and I love doing CrossFit. Am I making it more difficult to lose
my people
due to cortisol increase and hormone imbalance?
What was the middle part of that question? I was excited and I interrupted you.
CrossFit. Am I making it am I making it more difficult to lose body fat due to cortisol increase and hormone imbalance?
Okay. It depends on how often you're doing it and if you're giving yourself the time to recover. The biggest thing with people, people in general, it's not just CrossFit. There's people that do Beachbody. There's people that do F45 or Orange Theory, all sorts of things. We tend to get into this mindset where if we do more, it's going to work faster. And it's actually the opposite. If you do more, you're actually going to slow your transition and slow your progress down because your body never has time to recover. Muscle is grown during rest, not during work. Your body recovers during rest, not during work. All of the things that manage your hormones and bring your hormones into balance happen when you're not working. So if you're doing CrossFit 5 or 6 days a week, you're probably overdoing it and you're going to have struggles losing body fat and building muscle, because you're going to have high cortisol. Your body's going to be stressed and you're doing it's chronic overtraining, chronic fatigue. What you want to do, there's a concept, anyone who wants to Google supercompensation, it's an exercise science term that basically means when we stimulate a system, if I stress out a system and then give it time to rest properly, the next time I apply that same level of stress or that same stimulus to that system, it should be able to perform better. So that doesn't happen if we don't get the rest. If we keep stressing and then keep stressing and then keep stressing, it just gets worse, 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 and worse, and we start performing worse. Our metabolism starts crashing, all that kind of stuff. So CrossFit in and of itself is going to be fantastic for you. It's not going to be anything unless you overdo it. Okay. And just as a aside, on the menopause side of things, if anybody's interested, I can give you a link, Jessalyn, to put either in here or somewhere else. But I just got published with a case study in a journal where we did 8 weeks of functional fitness training, ketogenic diet. So basically CrossFit it wasn't CrossFit because they did it at home, so there's no barbells and stuff, but it was a very similar system of CrossFit training with dumbbells and kettlebells and by full body functional movement, things like that. We did 8 weeks, women over 45 who were peri and postmenopausal. And then we did a case study on what happened to their body composition, what happened to their athletic performance, what happened to their markers of quality of life. Everything got better. So when you do it right, if you're eating right and if you're moving your body and building muscle, this is the biggest thing about that case study. The focus was on protein and building muscle. There was no focus in the entire 8 weeks. We never focused on fat loss. Every single woman lost fat.
Amazing. So
that's how that works.
okay, and then someone else did ask, can my fiance do carnivore while pregnant?
Absolutely. 110%.
And
so that might be that's one area where you need all the proteins. Your body is building another human being. Eat all the meat. I would even say don't measure, just eat whatever she wants to eat. As long as it's meat, let her eat it.
Okay, let's see. We have another question. Do you fast? If you do, what lengths do you fast? Lengths?
I do not on purpose. Fasting is another thing that kind of gets my goat. I think it's confusing for people, and people get caught up in trying to fast and miss out on the fact that their body needs nutrition. Get the nutrition you need first. Worry about the timing of that nutrition after you've got a habit of getting the nutrition. So that is where your focus should be. I fast naturally because I've naturally fallen into a 2 meal a day kind of routine. It's just how it happens. I've not done it on purpose. Right now, because of my schedule, I get up in the morning, I do some work in the morning, and then I used to eat around 11 o'clock, but now I train either BJJ or go to the gym around 11:30, 12. So I'm not going to eat right before I go to BJJ. There's no way I'm eating right before I go to BJJ. I'll puke on everybody. So my first actual meal of the day is when I get back from training around 1 o'clock, 1:30. So I eat my first meal around 1:30, and then usually around 5:30 or 6, I have another meal, and then I'm usually pretty good. But I don't do that on purpose. That's just how my schedule works out. If I had my druthers, if I don't have training, or if I'm traveling or something else, then I may eat at 10 o'clock in the morning and then eat again at 4 or something like that. It's just kind of how I feel. So you should eat to your nutrition and let the timing take care of itself, rather than try to time your nutrition. Because if you do that, I'm pretty sure I've seen in most people that they end up not getting enough nutrition.
Yeah, so I want to dig into that a little more because it's very popular in the carnivore.
Yes.
Fasting and what else? High fat. Fasting and high fat are very, very popular right now. So, and it seems that some people are seeing benefits from it. So what's your suggestion to people who, what are the red flags if people are trying that, where they should what you're saying instead?
Well, so my recommendation is you should always start with the basics. And high fat and fasting isn't the basics. The basics is get the nutrient density that you can, get the bioavailability that you can, and get the satiety that you can. So that means get the protein that your body needs to function, get the fat that your body needs to function. Again, the two of them are not tied together, and focusing on one at the expense of the other is going to leave you lacking nutrition. Okay? Protein, foods that are high in protein are also the highest in actual nutrition, nutrient density. So anytime we prioritize fat and at the expense of protein, by definition, we are reducing our overall nutrition. Mm-hmm. It doesn't make sense to me. So your body needs a certain amount of fat to survive and function. Give it that. But you don't need to give it more than that, because then what are we doing? There's a diminishing return and it goes to body fat. It's not helping anything. And then the same with protein. Your protein needs a certain amount of protein to function. So find out what that is and give it that. You can give it a little bit more and it may help in some other areas, particularly if you're specifically trying to grow lean mass and build muscle and be athletic. But again, there can be a point of diminishing return. Now, it's not as harmful. Excess protein is not as harmful as excess fat, because it's not going to get stored as fat. It's going to get excreted from the body. But the amount of, and here's another thing, the amount of protein that is excess is way higher than people think it is. So I think in general, specifically trying to fast, specifically taking in fat at the expense of protein, I think they have potential to be tools in somebody's toolbox, but I don't think anybody should start there. Start with the basics, build a habit around the basics. And I guarantee you, everybody that I've worked with who comes and says, I've been intermittent fasting. I've been doing high fat. I've been doing high protein. I've been doing this or that, or, I'm doing red light therapy. I'm doing cold therapy. I'm doing these ketones, whatever these biohacks and all these tweaks are for the proper human diet, aren't doing the proper human diet. They're doing, I'm eating some meat and then trying all this other stuff on top of it. Like, let's get back to the basics. Eat the meat, manage your fuel intake. Don't eat all fatty meat all the time. It's okay to have fish. It's okay to have filet. It's okay to have something that doesn't have some fat on it sometimes. You're not going to die. Your body needs a protein. Enjoy it.
This is so interesting. I love this because this is so contrary to what a lot of really popular carnivores say.
Yes, I know.
We need to, I love it so much. We need to have like a debate.
Yeah. Well, so it's contrary, but it's not. And this is one of the things I like to talk about when it comes to context. Everybody's coming from a different perspective. They deal with different people. So if you're talking about, let's say 80-20, I'm doing 80-20. The 80-20 idea of being super high fat and lower protein comes from an area where people who are severely metabolically unhealthy need a fat focus. So they're at it, you're talking about somebody who's so metabolically sick that it may take them, they could be not eating carbs for 3 weeks and still not produce their own ketones because their body is so inefficient at ketogenic process. So they need to take high fat. They need exogenous ketones. They need these things so their body can really start figuring out how to do it. Now, I think that's a tool. Again, that's a tool that once that happens and once their body starts getting into that, I would highly recommend that they drop that fat down and increase that protein. Now, I also don't think that the protein has to be low while they're doing that. So that's a whole nother aspect of it. But if you talk to 5 different influencers or 5 different doctors or 5 different experts in this space, you're going to get variations because they all have different demographics. One person may be a weight loss doctor. One person may be an addiction doctor. One person may be a general practice doctor. One person may be specifically brain health. So there's all sorts of different areas where people are coming from. Like me, I'm coming at this from a quality of life and fitness perspective. So what I'm looking at is what are the combinations of things nutrition-wise and fitness-wise that help people improve their quality of life. And that's a much broader scope than any specific medical intervention. So the common theme, even though you're getting all this information, this is why I say the basics make the most importance. The common theme for all of it is nutrient density, bioavailability, and satiety. And you're going to get that by focusing on animal meats, number one.
Mm-hmm. And people, especially Fit Girl Jules, is loving this messaging. I agree, but this definitely needs to be heard by more people because I feel like a lot of people in the carnivore community feel like there's only one way because a lot of big accounts are pushing one thing. So I do think that this message does need to get out so people have options. Does not eating in the morning spike cortisol levels?
Does not eating in the morning? Well, it shouldn't. The idea, we need to stop worrying about cortisol. Can I say that? We need to stop worrying about cortisol. The number one thing you can do to reduce your overall cortisol and chronic stress is remove carbs from your diet. Outside of that, we're talking about general stress management techniques, about things that are happening in your life, your environment, your work, your family, your relationships, finances, your ability to mentally handle stress. And then on the second thing there is your physical condition. The more muscle you have, the more in shape you are, the more conditioned you are, the more you can handle stress. Because emotional stress, all that stuff that you're having problems with at work, all the fight you had with your spouse the other day, your kids are getting on your nerves, your money is not looking good, you got bills, whatever it is, all that stuff manifests physically. So one of the benefits of exercise is the ability to handle external stresses and reduce overall cortisol. So the idea that we need to be worried about cortisol all the time is more about just take it away from the cortisol and just look at overall stress. Okay. The idea that being low fat long-term raises cortisol, so that because cortisol is what kicks in gluconeogenesis to make sugar and blah, 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 blah. I would rather have my cortisol go up being no carb and being ketogenic and have gluconeogenesis kick in to supply glycogen when needed. At that level of cortisol raise is here compared to what it is with carbs.
Okay.
Right? That's like saying, I don't even have a corollary to that, because I feel like it's kind of a ridiculous conversation, to be honest with you.
Well,
it's not something that someone needs to worry about in most cases.
yeah. Okay. And then, so someone said, wouldn't more protein mean the insulin spike? I do think that Lily Kane she ate 300 grams of protein and she didn't get an insulin spike.
Yeah, it's not an insulin spike. It's an insulin raise over time.
Okay.
So it's a very big difference. So two things are super different about that. Number one, we want that, okay, because insulin is going to help your body store the amino acids that you're getting from the protein, where it's got to do something. That's one of the reasons why we have an insulin response. The other thing to remember is that it is gradual. It's not a spike. If you're not eating carbs, then why are we worried about insulin spike? The third thing that I'll throw in there is that insulin spike is what kicks you out of ketosis. So if we don't want long-term ketosis and we want to go in and out of ketosis to have that flexibility of being, utilizing that fuel, storing some of that fuel, then that's what we're looking for. Protein is king for all metabolic function, period. I'll just say that.
And okay, let's see. And what's the best way to lose weight on carnivore, considering you won't be in ketosis eating so much protein and turning it into sugar?
Okay. So two things about this question. Number one, the easiest way to lose weight on carnivore is to not worry about losing weight. It really is. Like I said, with a study I did with the women earlier this year, we focused on building muscle and prioritizing protein, and they built muscle. They improved their quality of life. They could do more. They had more energy. They were stronger, and they lost body fat. Okay. So the minute you stop, if you are always focused on losing weight, guess what? You will always be focused on losing weight because you're never fixing why you have the weight in the first place. The only way to change that is to focus on, it's like if your bathtub is leaking and you have water all over your bathtub, losing weight is going in there with a mop every day and mopping up the floor, and then coming in the next day and mopping up the floor, and coming in the next day and mopping up the floor. You haven't fixed the leak, right? Building muscle, prioritizing protein, and exercising fixes the leak, so then you don't have to worry about the rest. Mm-hmm. So that's number one. Number two, gluconeogenesis is not triggered. It is always happening. Okay, part A to that discussion. Part two, gluconeogenesis is an umbrella term that allows your body to do several different things. There are several systems underneath the umbrella of gluconeogenesis, and most of them, check this out, most of those other systems under gluconeogenesis use fat to create glycogen, not protein. Protein is the last thing on the list that your body wants to use to do anything with other than build muscle and cellular repair. Okay, so what happens, and I love this about this. I don't know if a lot of people realize that we couldn't be ketogenic without gluconeogenesis. Okay, the idea of carbs not being essential is because of gluconeogenesis. That is the reason we don't need to eat carbs, because our body can make glycogen when it's needed. If we're eating carbs, what happens is we don't allow gluconeogenesis to do its thing, and it just kind of sits there wilting away because we're eating it. So when we stop, we want, this might blow some minds, we want an efficient gluconeogenesis. We want gluconeogenesis to work as well as possible because it's going to do some cool things for us. First thing it's going to do, when we make ketones from fatty acids, when our body pulls fat from our body or we eat some fat and our body breaks it down, it makes beta hydroxybutyrate, and then it also makes acetoacetate. So there's the two main ketones that are made when we break up fatty acids. Beta BHB is what we commonly know as ketones. That's what your body primarily uses to make ATP and energy and all that kind of stuff. Acetoacetate actually breaks out into some other things, okay, pyruvate, acetate, and those get kicked into gluconeogenesis and get turned into glycogen. So the process of being ketogenic actually supplies gluconeogenesis with the things that it needs to create glycogen. So that is super cool. The second part about that is that's where we get our energy for exercise and working out and doing all the things that we do. So, you know, when we want to do something, if we're getting into improving our fitness and doing more exercise, we definitely want that process to be good because that's where we're getting our energy from.
Mm-hmm. So, and does that apply to fueling your brain as well? Because, or okay.
Absolutely, it provides glycogen for everything that you need in your body.
Okay.
Anything that needs glycogen, gluconeogenesis will provide. Like Prego, it's in there.
And your brain needs fat as well, though, too, right? But if you're eating just like the normal amount of fat, it'll get what it needs.
Yeah, because it's the process of converting fat into ketones provides gluconeogenesis with what it needs to make glycogen.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Can you save this live? Yes. I will repost it when we are done here, and I'll get that link from you with the study.
Yeah.
And in there too. And then if you guys do have any questions, drop them in the little question box next to the comment box, and I'll put them up.
For sure. I love it. Good questions, by the way.
Yeah. Please say, we will save it, post it on YouTube. If you want me to send it to you, I can definitely send it to you if you want a copy.
Sure.
So fatty liver, can you talk about that? Do you want to talk about fatty liver?
Yeah, don't make stop giving your liver extra work to do, and it won't get fatty. That's the simple thing there. Reduce seed oils, reduce processed foods, reduce chemicals, reduce carbs, and your fatty liver will go away.
Okay, and then I have a question. When we were talking about CrossFit and how you were saying that overdoing it can be really harmful, but that seems to be the culture, the CrossFit culture. So why do you think that is? Because every CrossFit person I've ever met, they're just like, if I'm not dead every day, it's not worth it, kind of thing.
Yeah. You think that's the culture, and it's one of those things where it's the vocal minority.
Okay.
Because in actuality, most CrossFit gyms, there's over 13,000 CrossFit gyms in the world. It's the largest fitness program in the world. There are millions of people that are doing CrossFit right now. There's a couple different levels, of things to understand for people. One, there's two different CrossFits, okay? They're the same CrossFit, but they're different. One is what you see on ESPN, the professional CrossFit athletes who are absolute animals, and that's what they do. They are trying to be the best at what they do. It's a professional sport, okay? Nothing in what you see on ESPN has any applicability to anything you do in your daily life. Okay, so that's the first thing to remember. The second aspect, or the second side of CrossFit is the hometown gym, and that is where normal people like us go to just get better and feel better and have fun and have a community and make friends and, you know, spend some time for themselves and try to get better at life. Within that aspect of things, the hometown gym, you have the differences. I like to equate it to bars. If you go to any city, there's a bar in every corner, but every bar is different. And you may try 3 or 4 bars before you find one that you like, because you get along with the bartender, you like the people that are in there, whatever it may be. And CrossFit gyms are the same way. One CrossFit gym in town may be run by a guy who's 26 years old, who just graduated from a D3 college and was an athlete, and then spent 2 years playing semi-pro sport, and then decided to open up a CrossFit gym. And there's a different mentality there from that gym and the people that are going to go to that gym. He's going to attract a different kind of crowd versus me as a 50-year-old person who's just trying to improve my life, play with my grandkids, and enjoy life as long as possible. I'm looking at longevity, sustainability, and freedom of movement and physical activity. I'm gonna draw a completely different crowd. So understanding that the attitudes, the perceptions, it's a lot like what we just talked about earlier with where all the different information about carnivore comes from. CrossFit gyms are the same way. The people that own and run each gym have their own perceptions, their own experience, their own background, their own things that they try to get people to do. And it's going to resonate with different people. So you get different aspects within each gym.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a constant throughout life is like everything's different and you have to find what works for you. What are your thoughts on fruits?
The bottom line, okay, so two things. Number one, there's no rule book, there's no policy guide, there's no police. You are an adult, make your own decisions, okay? Number two, hopefully you're making those decisions based on what your goals are, where you're trying to go, and what is going to work to get you there. That's all I got to say on that.
And then someone did ask if we have cookbooks. I don't have a cookbook. Do you have a cookbook?
I don't have a cookbook. Nope.
Author though, what have you written?
But what have I written? I got this book here. The Ultimate Ketogenic Fitness book. Yay. I published this earlier this year. Dr. Barry wrote the foreword for me. It's basically my 10 or 12 years of experience as a coach from a fitness perspective. I talk about mindset and the mindset we need to actually have success and progress in our journey, the importance of fitness, what fitness is, how it connects with nutrition, and then just a lot of information. Some of the stuff we've talked about here, how we're doing things now. And I think there's some ways we can think about nutrition and fitness that are different than what we hear a lot about that can actually help people make better decisions in their day-to-day life.
Mm-hmm. So it's been almost an hour. I can't believe that.
Yeah, awesome.
I want to know, like, if you only had one sentence to share with someone, we've talked about so much, but if you could just spit one sentence at someone, or not spit, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
What would be like the most important thing that you could tell someone?
Fitness is freedom, and everything that you do in life should be targeted at being physically independent for as long as possible.
Okay, I love that. Okay, and then if real quick, you guys, if you have any more questions, drop them in the comment box next to the question box next to the comment box. But where can people go to find you, work with you, get your book, all of that?
Yeah. So the book is on Amazon. If you go to Amazon and just type in Ultimate Ketogenic Fitness book, it will pop up there. If you have anybody, I don't know if you have anybody that follows you that speaks Spanish, but this week I'll be releasing the Spanish version of the book, which I don't know if you know Louis Villaseñor. He's one of the owners of Keto Gains and Drink Element. He did the foreword for that in Spanish. He's based out of Mexico. So that is out there. Everything else, if you want to find me outside of my Instagram, which you guys have here, everything else is Ultimate Ketogenic Fitness. So my Facebook page, my YouTube, my website, all that stuff is that brand. So that's where you can find me.
Do you do any online coaching?
I do one-on-one coaching. I do challenges. So I actually partnered with InBody. We do a challenge every quarter. So the next challenge will be starting in January. And that's a 10-week challenge where we do fitness, nutrition, weekly calls, things like that. And then I did say I do one-on-one coaching. And then I also have a fitness app. So I'm actually working on building some membership options where people can get access to a mobile app on their phone where they get workouts from me right to their phone, videos, detailed descriptions, all that kind of stuff. And then have a program that you can do at home or at the gym.
And do you have like an ETA on when that would be rolled out?
Yeah, so you could actually do it now. If you go to my YouTube channel and join the memberships on my YouTube channel, you can get access to it. I'm in the process of pulling all that stuff off of YouTube and going to a different platform. So it's there now. You can do it. Just know that in the next month or two, it's going to change over to a different platform.
Okay. And then I guess one last question from someone. Do you snack in between meals?
No.
Neither do I. It's because it's so satiating, you know?
Yeah. You shouldn't need a snack. if you're snacking, that means you're probably not eating enough at that meal, at your last meal. Yeah.
Well, this has been a blast. Thank you so much for joining me and answering all of our questions.
Yeah, this is fantastic. You got some good questions from everybody, and I'm totally down for doing this again if you ever want to do it again.
Yes, please, because I love shaking things up and bringing different perspectives to the scene, and I think you definitely do that. So I would be interested in talking with you again and diving deeper into your controversial theories.
Awesome. Sounds good to me.
Yay. Well, thank you guys for watching, and have a good night.
Take it easy, guys. Nice meeting y'all.
Bye.